All right, that's all right. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to, and well, I'm back. If you're not sick of me, you will be very shortly. It is NBA Live Before Lock, 6-game slate. Dave Loughran and Adam Scherer, presented by SuperDraft.io. Download it in the App Store. Check it out at SuperDraft.io. Just use that promo code Awesemo10. Get you $10 when you deposit $10 or more, or $20 with a $100 or more deposit. Go to superdraft.io or download it in the App Store today. Multipliers, no salaries. Very cool format. I think you'll enjoy it. Got any questions about it, just hit us up. All right. Adam, what a horseshit storm that just was. I mean, I hate to downplay it because I'm sure a lot of people got hammered pretty good by it, but I'm a big fan of storms. A couple tornado warnings. Everything was looking like we were about to get smoked. And then nothing but some heavy rain, not even thunder or lightning, man.
Yeah, where I'm at, we didn't get hit very hard. I know Annapolis, which is like 20 minutes from me, had flooding and stuff downtown, but that's not really unusual for them either. They definitely got worse than we did, but I'm guessing that, or it sounds like you didn't get hit much harder than I did.
No, my buddy works for a neighboring borough, said that a full roof collapsed on a place called Children's Village in a town called Doylestown in Pennsylvania, which is a daycare, and there were 100 kids in there or something that. But they all got out. So, I feel comfortable saying it's a horseshit storm now. But nevertheless, we're here, and I should be good to go. Looking good as of now. Seems like everything is passed. Hopefully everybody did stay safe, though, because it was ripping up the Northeast, and I know a lot of people probably dealt with flooding and high-speed winds and everything. So in all seriousness, hope you guys stayed safe and are able to turn that power back on and sit here with us as we go for the next 45 minutes leading up to lock. We got 6 games. I did a lot of talking over the last hour and a half with Alex Baker, so I'll steer the show and happy to let you kind of just take over as far as analysis goes. Mostly everyone, I'm assuming, that watched the last one is still tuning into this one as well. We'll kick it off with Milwaukee and Brooklyn. Jamal Crawford will play, Adam. He's going to be limited. Obviously, I don't see any reason why Jacques Vaughn would run his minutes heavy when he didn't trust him to be out there to begin with through the first couple of games. But they have 11 guys. It's not like they're super short-handed. It's just the players that they have are really as underwhelming as you could ever imagine. And if I told you that they were one of 22 teams that entered the bubble with aspirations, to make the postseason, currently making the postseason, will make the playoffs, you would never imagine their third game would look like a roster such as this that we're going to get today.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy since they came into the bubble missing multiple starters, and then all the starters that they were using, or most of them, are sitting today. So it definitely has an April basketball feel.
Yes, it very much does. Let's just kick it off with Brooklyn. We do know that Rodion Kurucs is going to get the start at center. You mentioned on Twitter today in a response to me that he's going for 2020. I know there was nothing tongue-in-cheek about that. Tell me why Rodion Kurucs is one of your favorite. No. But in all seriousness, $4,300 on DraftKings. And then on FanDuel, you've got him at $3,600. He's power forward eligible too, which is very nice. There's no reason he would be center eligible, but fortunately you don't have to play him there. What are your thoughts on him first, and then we'll jump into the rest of these players. I will point out that on SuperDraft, Kurucs he has a multiplier of. Oh no, you know what? They're only running the 4-game slate, so that one tips off at 4 p.m. So you can get all your DraftKings and FanDuel action in, and then hop over to SuperDraft for the 4 p.m. wave of games and jump in that $15,000 NBA jump shot. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think Kurucs is the guy that really stands out to me. DraftKings, fortunately, did a good job with the pricing on Brooklyn. I was anticipating coming into today with it being a slate where you basically had to roster 5 guys from this terrible team, but that's not the case. They priced up most players, but Kurucs didn't really get that treatment. He's only 4,300, power forward eligible, like you said. His rebounding numbers, or his rebounding opportunities at least, through the first couple games had been high anyway, because he was getting the backup center minutes behind Jared Allen. Now he's getting the start at center. Milwaukee's a team that, they have Brook Lopez, but other than that, you could certainly see them run some smaller lineups that don't make things too difficult for Kurucs as far as size goes. And even if they do stick with Brook Lopez, what are the Nets going to do about it? Because they have nobody else to play there anyway. So I think that Kuruc's salary looks really favorable. I think that his rates, as far as rebounding in particular goes, should be higher than normal because of playing center here. So I think that he's pretty clearly, in my opinion, the top value guy from Brooklyn.
Do you have legitimate interest in anybody else? DraftKings clearly priced them up on the news of LeVert and Joe Harris and Jared Allen being out. You're getting pretty extraordinary price points on guys like Tyler Johnson. Chris Chiozza's north of $5,000. Garrett Temple's $5,800. I think that's one of the reasons Kurucs is most appealing, because you're getting that good price point on him. Whereas with a lot of these other players, unless you're digging deep for like Dante Hall or Lance Thomas or Justin Anderson, which would be just a terrible decision, that the lack of starters isn't really opening the door to a ton because their salaries aren't reflected in that, or are reflected in that.
Right. I think that if beyond Kurucs, if I'm looking for other guys, I think that you could take a shot at Zan and Musa, who I would expect to play, 18 to 20 minutes at the flat minimum, but it's nothing really looks good to me other than Kurucs.
Okay. What about Milwaukee? Alex said that this game only had a 40% blowout risk, which I was surprised by that. 18.5 point spread. It is basketball. Crazy things have happened. I'm personally still of the opinion that Mike Budenholzer uses this as an opportunity to, and this is where I differ from Alex a little bit. I think that he is going to take this opportunity to limit some of his starters, particularly Eric Bledsoe. We already know that should be the case, but I wouldn't be surprised if Giannis Antetokounmpo specifically plays fewer minutes than usual. Where are you at on the Bucks here against the Nets?
I agree with you. I'm just not really sure what to do with that for DFS purposes,
Sure.
Because even if let's say Giannis plays 24 minutes here, he's playing against a front court consisting of Lance Thomas and Rodions Kurucs. I don't really like his rates should go up at least. So I don't, from a DFS standpoint, I don't really think it makes too much of a difference to me. If this game does stay competitive and Brooklyn's scoring a ton and Giannis plays 32 minutes, then he probably scores like 85 fantasy points. But even if he plays, 24, 26 minutes, I think you easily could see 2+ fantasy points per minute from him. So I still think, projecting him in that 58 to 60 fantasy point range makes a lot of sense. And that's still going to get him in the lineups.
What about when you stack him up against like James Harden, Luka Doncic, and a bunch of other, like Damian Lillard, Russell Westbrook? I know they're not in the same price point or same price tier, but a good amount of high-priced options on an abbreviated or a 6-game slate. How does he stack up against them would be my biggest question, because as far as raw points, yeah, I agree with you. There's not much to agree with. Like that's what he's going to be projected for. But what about when you compare him to these other players?
Yeah, I mean, I think medium projection, at least for me, it's basically the same for Giannis, for Luka, and for Harden. Normally, I end up obviously prioritizing the lowest owned one out of that group. But to your point, I do think it's fair to say, not that Harden or Luka have higher ceilings, because Giannis' ceiling is just as high if this game does stay close. I think that Harden and Luka have a higher probability of reaching their ceiling because they are much more likely to be in competitive games.
Do you have any interest elsewhere in Milwaukee? I did mention Brook Lopez. Very interesting to see that, against that Houston team last time out, a smaller front court, he got 18 shots up and only 2 of them were 3-pointers. So he wasn't really used much as a stretch 5. He was actually banging down low. It is a very similar looking team in terms of the Nets' size or lack thereof. I think Brook Lopez would be one of the first guys to lose minutes in the case that it turns into a blowout. But what are your thoughts on him and the rest of this team, non-Antetokounmpo?
Everyone else starts looking like secondary plays to me because the pricing is just kind of, I think, where it should be. 5,700 for Lopez. It's not terrible, but it's not one of the better values on the slate. Same goes for Middleton, up around 10K or up around 8K. Bledsoe, we don't really know how many minutes to play. He's going to play. I have him in for 26, but 24 to 26 is my guess. it could be a little bit less. So outside of Giannis, nobody really looks that good to me from Milwaukee. You know, if you're playing 150 lineups, I'd be getting to some Middleton, some Lopez, and some George Hill. But Giannis, the only one that actually looks really appealing.
All right, let's keep it moving then. Dallas and Sacramento. Dallas, and I'll run the format a little bit different than the last show. We just did an hour and a half, so I won't do the exact same thing we did before, but I do want to kind of hit on each game and get to the main points. I want to get your take and weigh it against Alex's. I think that'll be helpful for everybody. Luka's 10-7 on DraftKings, and Kristaps Porzingis is coming in at center eligible only, $9,000. That could make things interesting. And on on FanDuel, I may have mixed those up, but on FanDuel, you've got Porzingis power forward at 9,700, and then Luka Doncic shooting guard at 11,000. Both of these guys in the two games they've played are sporting 30+% usage rates. Luka's assist rate is above 42%. Both of them have been absolutely dominant. The rest of the team has kind of just sat back and watched as they just tear things up and eat up the majority of possessions. What are you doing with them today against the Kings?
Yeah, so you get this Dallas team most likely without Seth Curry, but obviously the offense runs through Porzingis and through Luka. I think Luka's the most favorably priced, coming in at 10-7 on DraftKings, also with the guard and forward eligibility, which is nice. Dallas does have a total over 120 here, which is appealing. This game, you would assume, is going to be competitive, and he just does, everything well across the board. So as I'd mentioned before, I have him projected about the same as Giannis. I have Harden a little bit ahead in terms of raw points, but he's also a little bit more expensive. So I do expect to get to a lot of Luka. As far as Porzingis goes, where he is only center eligible, it's going to be tougher. I think that his salary on DraftKings has come up enough where he's at $9K. He still has upside because he is still really good. The rebounding numbers, we saw them trending up prior to the break, and he's continued to post big games across the board. So I think still a high upside play, but much less of a quote-unquote optimal play than Luka.
Going to get into all of your questions a little bit later in the show. We'll do that sooner than later. So hold them for a minute. I see them coming in, but I'm going to lose them with the amount that are coming in right now. So just hold on to them, and we'll get to them shortly. Seth Curry being out, maybe DeLon. I said to Alex, it's so hard to predict Rick Carlisle's rotations. I really never know what I'm gonna get from them. So I almost don't even try. Feels like a waste of time. I assume DeLon Wright gets some minutes. Trey Burke gets a few more minutes. But mentioning, which I did earlier, the amount of usage that Doncic and Porzingis, who is completely healthy and both of whom are playing huge minutes, are eating up. It's hard for me to really fall in love with anything else from the Mavericks.
Yeah, it's hard to fall in love with anything, mainly for the reason you said about Carlisle's rotations. Even if you look at the first two games for Dallas, in the first game, when Seth Curry was in foul trouble, you had Trey Burke being the primary beneficiary. So you could, if you were just looking at that game, you would say that he's really likely to be in line for a huge uptick here. But then in the last game, Trey Burke played like 12 minutes. You actually had you had Antonius Cleveland sub into the game before Trey Burke did. DeLon Wright got the bulk of the minutes off the bench as far as the backup guards go. So my best guess at it is I have DeLon Wright in for 26 minutes. I have Trey Burke in for 22 minutes. When you look at price points, they're both kind of similar. Wright's at 4,100 on DraftKings, Burke's at 3,600. I wouldn't play them together. I do think that they're both cheap enough where if you're kind of mixing and matching them throughout lineups, it's going to give you some upside because I think there's a good chance one of them has a good game. But it's just basically impossible to feel confident guessing which one that's going to be.
Do you have interest in the Kings?
De'Aaron Fox, I think, looks pretty good at 7,300 on DraftKings. Played 30 or 31 minutes last game. Prior to that, we had seen more in their first game. I have him in for 32 minutes here. We've seen his usage rate go up a bit ever since Bogdan Bogdanovic joined the starting lineup over Hield. So I think that's appealing. And then, just in general, a pretty cheap price tag. Beyond that, pretty much just tournament darts on guys like Holmes or Buddy Hield or Bogdanovic.
Okay. Let's move to Phoenix and the LA Clippers. Clippers 9-point favorites, 230.5 total. What are we doing with Ayton, and what are we doing with Devin Booker? Ayton has power forward eligibility on DraftKings now, pretty appealing, mid 7K price point. And it appears as though outside of foul trouble, he's going to play pretty heavy minutes. The same goes for Devin Booker. Both of these guys are probably going to come in around 35, 36 minutes. Booker fouled out last game, was in constant foul trouble. Let's start with those two guys for the Suns.
Ayton looks like one of the biggest priorities on the slate for me. He's only 7,500 on DraftKings with that power forward eligibility, as you said. He was in foul trouble last game, as was Booker, so that's why the minutes were down. But he's over a fantasy point per minute player in competitive games where he's not in foul trouble. You're expecting 33 or 34 minutes, and he's only 7,500. So he looks like a priority for me. Booker, a little bit more expensive, projects similarly to Ayton, I think. So less of a priority, but I think still a good play.
Okay. Anything else from Phoenix that jumps out?
Cameron Johnson's coming off of a 40-minute game where he had just a monster outing. His price tag jumped to 5,100 on DraftKings. I have him in for 32 minutes here. I think he was a big beneficiary of all the foul trouble. You had Booker and Ayton in foul trouble, as we mentioned. You also had Dario Saric pick up a couple of fouls in the second quarter and briefly sub out. So you had just really long stints for Cameron Johnson. So he benefited, I think, from foul trouble on pretty much the whole team. I'm not expecting him to get tons of minutes, but he is still a young player, and I would expect them, with him coming off of such a good game, to still get him in that 30 to 32-minute range.
We do have the Nets lineup. It is, as expected, Tyler Johnson, Garrett Temple, Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot, Lance Thomas, and Rodions Kurucs. I'm assuming that's what most of us expected it to be. Yep. So, okay. We knew that Kurucs was starting at the 5, but now you've got him. Now you've got the full starting 5 out there. Do with that as you may. What about the Clippers? Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, kind of in strange spots from a DFS standpoint, given their price points and the guys that are priced around them and above them, specifically Kawhi Leonard. What are you doing with the two top players from the Clippers? Then we'll get into the front court a little bit.
I think I'll have less of both of them today than I did previously. On the first couple of slates, they were both guys that I got a ton of, but now you do have Lou Williams probable for this game. That obviously it's not going to affect George and Leonard's minutes too much, but it does increase blowout risk just because Williams can score. It also means that with the second unit, you have another scorer out there. So I think the usage probably goes down a little bit. And on top of that, it's just a slate where you have several guys at the top that look really, really good. So I expect from a roster construction standpoint, I might kind of lose out on that 8 to 9K range.
I said on the strategy show that I think Zubac's probably is going a little bit overlooked here. And I anticipate him getting a lot more minutes than he has been. Foul trouble has been a massive issue for him. Yes, sure, you could worry about DeAndre Ayton, but I'm not particularly concerned about that. I'm not worried about like JaMychal Green coming in and being the savior here. Zubac's getting sub 10% ownership right now. When you look at both of his games, what you saw was, considerable foul trouble. Against the Lakers, he was in constant foul trouble. I even got in some against New Orleans, but more than anything, never played in the fourth quarter because they were up by 100 points. So I think Zubac probably gets around 30 minutes today. And that, to me, makes him interesting. Do you have interest in the rest of this Clippers team not named Leonard and Paul George?
I have some interest in Zubac, but I only have him in for 24 minutes.
What would you put him in? I'm curious here, because he played 24 minutes last game. Do you not think he closes with Montrezl Harrell out?
He could, but with Lou Will probably being back, I think the rotations changed a little bit. You saw JaMychal Green playing backup center as well. Patrick Patterson's been getting minutes. I think it's possible that he gets more than that. I'm just not real confident going there because for most of the season, regardless of really who's been in or out, you weren't seeing those big games for Zubac.
Yeah, he played 28 minutes in the one game Harrell missed this season. So I don't mind giving him a little more than that. I don't have interest in the rest of this team as far as the Clippers go. Is there anything else here for the Clippers?
I do think Zubac will be my highest owned guy on the Clippers. I just don't feel quite as confident about it as you do. Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense to me. Anything else from this game? And who are your top plays other than DeAndre Ayton from this game? I think we both agree that's our top guy. Who would your second favorite player on Phoenix or the Clippers be?
Probably Zubac just for the value. Okay.
Let's keep this one rolling then. Let's go with Orlando and Indiana. 225 total. Orlando moved from dogs to actually Slate favorites here. Nikola Vucevic, let's start with him. $7,800. This Orlando Magic team has been involved in two monster blowouts over the past, or in the first two games since this bubble restart. I assume this game is going to stay competitive, and we start to see all of their minutes tick back upwards. What are your thoughts on the Orlando Magic beginning in the front court with Nikola Vucevic?
I think that it's not the most appealing game between Orlando and Indiana. You have several other games that I think are more appealing, but Vooch's salary looks great. He's 7,800 on DraftKings. In competitive games, you're getting 33 to 34 minutes from him. We know that he does everything, as far as usage, rebounding, and assists goes. Really, really productive player. So Vooch looks like a really, really good play to me. I think Fournier is a bit underpriced at 5,100 on DraftKings as well. Beyond that, I don't think there's much on DraftKings. I do think that Aaron Gordon is cheap on FanDuel, and I think that you could potentially see a couple of extra minutes for him with Jonathan Isaac injured.
Okay. Is that all for Orlando?
That's all I have.
What about Indiana?
So second day of a back-to-back for them. You had Brogdon come back yesterday, played 34 minutes. I'm assuming he's healthy. I have him in for 32 minutes here, but Oladipo back as well. Takes a little bit of usage away, but the assists should still be there for Brogdon. Sabonis being out is still a big deal. So I think Brogdon still looks like a really good option from the Indiana side. I think that Oladipo and Miles Turner are both reasonable options as well, though not quite as appealing. TJ Warren's salary up to $8K on DraftKings, so that's a spot I'll be getting away from. Should lose usage with Oladipo back. Unlikely to replicate his rebounding and blocks and steals from yesterday.
Okay, so with Oladipo coming back, he's 5,900, 5,300 on FanDuel. He played 32 minutes in the one game he returned. I assume he gets over 30 minutes again. Assuming his efficiency returns to levels prior to when he was coming back from a bunch of injuries, and we started to see him regaining some of that momentum right before the season shut down. What do you make of him at such a discounted price point? His ownership right now coming in on DraftKings at 15%, and on FanDuel, again, $5,300. He's coming in at 15% as well.
I think that he's pretty appropriately priced. He's right around 6K. The usage should be there. I think that he takes a hit as far as playmaking goes because of Brogdon being in the lineup, but I expect him to play around 32 minutes as well. He's a secondary option for me. He's definitely cheap enough where he could fit into some builds where you're kind of looking to get up to one of Harden or Giannis.
Who would you say your top options from Orlando and Indiana are? And do you have any priority plays from this game?
Brogdon and Vooch.
Brogdon and Vooch. Okay, yeah, and they will be popular. Right now they're looking at getting quite a bit of ownership. Bucks starting Bledsoe, Hill, Middleton, Giannis, Robin Lopez. Seth Curry has been ruled out officially as anticipated. Let's keep it going here. Miami and Boston. Lowest projected scoring game on the slate, 220 over under. Boston 3.5-point favorites. Kemba Walker now played 22 minutes and 19 minutes. Do we give him what, 24 minutes here? Or,
I have him at 24.
24, yeah. What are you doing with the Boston Celtics?
I think that Tatum coming off of the really big game is still affordably priced. You're just getting huge minutes from him. He's obviously really, really good. Jaylen Brown, I think, looks like a solid option as well at 6,800. Less excited for Hayward or Smart or Tice. If you need the savings, I'm always on board to take a shot on a minute salary and his Cantor just because of the upside he brings. But obviously the minutes for him are all over the place.
That it for Boston?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much Tatum and then some Jaylen Brown.
All right, where are we going on the other side with Miami? There is some potential value. Chat in the previous show was talking about Kelly Olynyk and Tyler Hero, who I'm not particularly fond of. Olynyk, I get on board with that. Take me around this Miami team. Tell me what we're doing here.
Yeah, I think they're a team that the rotation obviously can be kind of all over the place, but there's at least upside for some cheap guys here on a slate where there's not a ton of men like close to minimum salary value. Kelly Olynyk, I think, is the most obvious. He played 30 minutes last game. He played 24 minutes the game before that. You had Derek Jones Jr. last game, not really even in the rotation. So I think that bodes well for Olynyk. I have him in at 24 minutes here, but it wouldn't be surprising if he got more. It also wouldn't really be surprising if he got less. But he's the one the value guy that I would feel the best about from this team. As far as Tyler Hero goes, I don't have confidence that he plays a lot of minutes. I have him in for 20, but I do think at 3,100, he's at least the type of guy where if he's scoring, he probably picks up some more playing time from Spoelstra and can get there. So much more of a large field play than, a 3-max play, whereas Olynyk, I think, is fine in any format.
Okay. Would you play Olynyk on FanDuel, though, with center eligibility?
No, it's the opportunity cost is just totally different.
Yeah, I would hope so. DraftKings is one spot where he makes sense. Oh, you know what? Hold on a second. Alex just mentioned in our premium chat that it's Robin Lopez start. So Robin Lopez is starting over Brook Lopez for Milwaukee.
Great.
I'm wondering if that is just a mess up.
They've done that before. That's happened before, if I remember correctly.
Huh. Okay. That's interesting. Let's circle back to this one. We still got plenty of time. What are we doing about this then? If Robin Lopez is starting, he is $3,200 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, Robin Lopez is $3,500 min sal. But it's not like Brook Lopez has been ruled inactive. In the event that he is, well, then Robin Lopez becomes very, very intriguing against this Brooklyn Nets front court and Brooklyn Nets team altogether.
Yeah, he does. Obviously becomes a top value because he's priced to play like 12 minutes. And when he has started, we've seen him play, barring foul trouble, play normal starters minutes. So I would expect at least like 24, 26 minutes from him, which at 3,200 makes him a top value.
Does that say anything about how Budenholzer is going to treat the rest of this team?
Yeah, it again, from a DFS standpoint, it doesn't change anything for me, but I think it just kind of reiterates that there's significant concern about things being weird in this game.
All right. Anything else on Boston and Miami?
No.
Okay, Portland and Houston. Hit that thumbs up while you're at it. It helps us out greatly. Subscribe, hit the notification bell as well. So you've got Portland and Houston with a 242 total, just an absolutely monstrous total in this game. And, well, we'll start with James Harden and Russell Westbrook on the Rockets side of the ball. Where are we with James Harden? He's 11-3, 11-1 on FanDuel. On SuperDraft, you're going to get a multiplier of exactly 1. Same with Lillard. Same with most of the top priced guys. Of course, you don't have the first 2 games on the slate. Is James Harden to you a top option in a game where his team has a monstrous implied total as of now? Refreshing this just to get an idea of where we're at. So implied total for the Rockets is 124.3, 124.8 for the Bucks. So they're both sky high today. Except the Rockets are far more likely to be involved in a competitive game. This line went from 5 to 3.5, and the total went from up to 2.4. We're at 245 now.
Yeah, absolutely love this game. Should be really, really competitive. Should be really fast paced. We know how fast Houston plays. So there's more possessions. There's a ton of rebounding opportunities for guys like Nurkic because there's nobody over 6'7" on the Rockets. I think it's a really interesting game. I think it's a great game from a DFS standpoint. If you were going to stack one game on the slate, I think this is it. I think there's a ton of good plays from this game. Okay.
Like who?
Harden and Westbrook obviously stand out the most. Westbrook only 9,400 on DraftKings, so almost $2,000 less expensive than Harden. Similar usage rates though, so I think that's really appealing. I think that Westbrook is one of the best plays on the slate. Harden right there with him. I would give Harden a slight edge over guys like Luka and Giannis that we talked about earlier. But then beyond that, you're just getting big minutes from Covington, from Daniel House, from PJ Tucker. And Portland runs a big lineup out there that's going to have trouble defending the 3-point line on these guys. You should get a lot of open looks for Daniel House, for PJ Tucker. Obviously, Tucker can struggle, and he's only center eligible on DraftKings, which is really tough. But he should get plenty of open looks, as should House, who's been shooting better than Tucker. Covington obviously has been playing center. He gets rebounds. He gets some 3-point shots up as well. Between Covington, House, and Tucker at their respective price points, you're kind of just mixing and matching because I think they're all priced pretty appropriately. But Westbrook and Harden, I think, are both good values and obviously two of the highest projected players on the slate.
But just to circle back from what we talked about earlier, if you're on DraftKings and you're looking at Giannis and Doncic and Harden and Westbrook, how do you prioritize these guys right now?
Harden 1, and then whoever's lower owned on your site out of Luka and Giannis.
Okay. Portland side of the ball, Terry Stotts is just doing everything he can to get a postseason berth. We've seen that in the playing time. We've seen that with the fact that he's running an 8-man rotation. All of that means that Damian Lillard is going to play huge minutes. Yusuf Nurkic comes out of nowhere to play huge minutes. Hassan Whiteside relegated back to the bench while Nurkic goes off and looks like one of the best centers in the league. CJ McCollum playing huge minutes. Pretty much everybody on this team that you would expect to play big minutes is getting them. Carmelo Anthony is another one. Across the board with only, 3 guys that he's using off the bench. These guys are seeing a huge run. Matter of fact, even Gary Trent saw 34 minutes in his last game. Go ahead and break this Blazers team down. The starters are just getting an immense amount of work.
Yeah, huge amount of minutes for the starters, and you don't expect that to change in this game. I'm expecting around 40 minutes again for Lillard and McCollum. It makes Lillard in particular a really good option. McCollum, his salary's come up enough to where I think it's going to be kind of tough to get there. But Nurkic also should do great in this matchup. His salary's come up. There's at least some reason for concern as far as Houston being a small team, but I don't really know what the Blazers can do. Unless they're going to run lineups with Carmelo Anthony at center, it's not like it's doing you any good to replace Nurkic with Collins or Whiteside. It's the same problem.
You can't take your best center, one of your best players off the court,
right?
To try and match. It just doesn't make any sense. I said the same thing earlier.
And we've seen other teams don't do it. I mean, you basically you have Nurkic annihilate the Rockets and you hope that's enough to win.
Yeah.
You hope it's
not
enough
to mention he's a great passer.
Yeah,
he's a great passer. He's not just someone that hovers around the back. He's useful out there outside of cleaning up garbage around the rim.
And I mean, logically, it makes sense. You don't take Yusuf Nurkic off the floor because PJ Tucker is getting too open. You just let PJ Tucker do whatever he's going to do.
Okay, so let's go through a little bit more of a thorough breakdown on the Portland Trailblazers then. Is Nurkic at his price valuable on a slate like this with such a deep center position?
I think so. Obviously, Vooch's price tag makes it tough. DeAndre Ayton's price tag makes it kind of tough. But, who's getting rebounds from Yusuf Nurkic here? So I think that he's in line for another monster game.
Okay. Who are your top options for the Portland Trailblazers there?
Dame, Nurkic, and then, having some Melo across a lot of lineups would be fine. Taking some shots on $4,300 Trent is okay because I think he plays massive minutes again. I'm not worried about Nurkic's minutes. I do think you could see Whiteside, who already isn't playing a lot, but I do think you could see him even lose a couple more minutes and just get more lineups that have Trent in his own.
All right, 6 up, 6 down. Let's go ahead and take some questions here. Sean asks, is the Rolo start verified? It looks like it, but I'd pay very close attention to that. We only have a few minutes until that starts. Kurik, I'm assuming means Kurucs, a lock, or Lance Thomas. No. Do not play Lance Thomas. If Lance Thomas goes off, you can come on the show and publicly shame me. But that is a 1 in a million.
Well, I know who I'm playing now.
What's that?
I said after yesterday, I know who I'm playing
now. Is Kurucs a lock, Alec or Adam? I mean, he is a very good play starting here at center.
Nobody's ever a lock.
Well, right. Of course, and that's probably important to mention, but I think by lock, the question would be is he, let me rephrase it, is he one of your favorite plays?
Yes, I was obviously going to get to more of him before the Robin Lopez news. There's still a pretty big difference between 4,300 and 3,200, but yeah, I do think Hurix is one of the best values on the slate.
Liam says, why is TJ Warren's ownership so low on Awesemo? Oladipo's back, Brogdon back with him. He was back yesterday, but both of those guys are back. They're playing their second of a back-to-back. Not only that, but just the fact that his price continues to rise on DraftKings. It's actually come down on FanDuel. Best 5K forward on DraftKings. There's not a ton to love there.
Kurucs.
Yeah, I guess just go down the Kurucs. Zach Collins is a sketchy one just because he's not going to get a ton. He's going to be out there for quite a bit of time, but I have a lot of worries that there's just zero usage there whatsoever. And you're going to see a very empty stat line from him. Take a couple questions from our premium Slack chat in the NBA channel. Let me get over to this one. Adam, here's one. Snoop asks, are there any important rules or groups of the day? Cruncher, obviously.
I don't. There wasn't anything that stood out as much different than normal. Obviously, you don't want to be playing centers from the same team, but there was nothing. I guess Brooklyn would be the team that is most interesting, but they are kind of such a crapshoot that I don't really have rules there either. Like I wouldn't want more than two of like Chioza, Musa, the guys off the bench, but there was nothing really unique to today, I don't think.
Yeah, just be careful with Brooklyn for sure. Tatum or George, DraftKings tournament?
I like Tatum a little bit more.
Tatum a little bit more. Okay, keep this going. Does Crowder get run today?
He's the starter.
He's gonna play 30 minutes. Probably.
Yeah, I mean that's what I have him in for.
Yeah. So he'll get run. Oh, the rain is back. Maybe I was wrong. Odds that Kemba scores higher than lower price guards on FanDuel, even with less minutes. It's a tough spot, Kane. Tough spot against Miami. Don't really know that he's gonna get those minutes. I don't know if you have an answer for that too, but like I just don't have. How much does Kemba cost on FanDuel? He's 4,800, so it's a valid question.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's definitely a price point where you can play 24 minutes of Kemba. The issue you run into is still going to be opportunity cost. But
Eric Bledsoe's 4,700. Goran Dragic 49. Yeah, honestly, if you wanted to play Bledsoe or Kemba, not together, but one or the other at that price point, it's not the craziest idea. If one of them if they play 25 minutes, they could go off and rip off a big game. We saw it with Zion yesterday, totally different player, but if the talent's there and the per minute production is there, then it's not crazy. What else do we have here? I got a few minutes to go. Is George a good cash game play?
I don't think so. Just I don't think he ends up in optimal lineups.
Yeah, I would not think so at all. Luka or Harden?
Harden.
Higher
Westbrook over both.
Let's see, with Oladipo back, Brogdon or Goran Dragic? Definitely Brogdon. Let's see what we got here. How are we feeling about TLC? Look, it's Luawu Cabarro. There's not a ton to feel there. He's not that cheap, so I don't think you're really getting much value with him at all. Spaceman feels like it's going to be a wild one. Good luck, everyone. Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. Is Dragic a good play? Asks Jay Trim. Adam.
I don't have much interest in him.
Hayward's been solid so far. It's only 6,900 thoughts. He has, but I don't think you need to get to somebody like Gordon Hayward today just because there are a lot of good games. There are a lot of really good mid-range spots on this slate where, could it happen that Gordon Hayward ends up winning someone a tournament? Sure, it's possible, but I don't know where you stand on him, Adam. He's not somebody that I have a ton of interest in, just based on what's available around him.
I have him behind Tatum and Brown from his team.
Yeah, from his own team. Yeah. Melo or Jaylen Brown?
I have Brown ahead of Melo.
Okay. CJ or Nurkic? Okay, so you're talking about just same team. I think it's pretty easily Nurkic. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. McCollum's 8,200. Easily Nurkic.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Nurkic is the type of guy that Lillard can go off and he can still have a big game. It's very seldom do you see McCollum and Lillard have very big games together. What else? 4,800 to $5,200 play on DraftKings. Evan Fournier, I think his minutes come back up. That's not a crazy idea.
I like Fournier a lot.
Yeah, Evan Fournier would be my guy in that price range. Have they been staggering McCollum and Lillard's minutes? Ask somebody in chat. You can't really stagger them because they're both. You can't stagger them when they're playing the whole game.
I mean, yes, they've been having their minutes staggered. They both
for like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aren't they both playing 40 plus every night? So
yes,
you know, if the question is when Lillard's off the floor, is Stott's trying to keep McCollum on the floor? Yeah, but it's not enough to make any real judgments from that. Vooch or Ayton? Well, I'll tell you this much. Adam, you can play both of them on DraftKings without even using up your utility spot because Ayton has power forward eligibility now. I like both of them. I'd lean Ayton, but I really like both.
Yeah, it's the same for me.
Thoughts on Trey Burke? Nah, don't really have many. I'd give him like 23 minutes.
Yeah, I'm at 22 minutes. At 3,600, if you're playing 150 lineups, you should have some Burke.
Oh yeah, he's ruined a lot of days for me, whether I had him or didn't have him. Jimmy Butler and Bam okay to play together on DraftKings.
I don't have a rule saying not to.
Yeah, there's no rule not to. There's no reason you can. It's more so, do you want them? I guess I don't know if it's your cash lineup. I definitely wouldn't be doing that. Definitely not. In cash, Fox or Tyler. Wait. Okay, Fox, Paul George, or Tyler Johnson and Harden.
Probably neither in cash, but
yeah, Tyler Johnson's a bit expensive. I'd just go cheap if you're going to pair with Harden and work something else out there. Musa or Lopez on DraftKings. If Robin Lopez is legit starting, I'm going Lopez for sure. I'm not even thinking about that. Shamet as a dart throw, Adam?
No, not with Lou Wilbeck.
Dart throw straight into the toilet. Temple or Cabarrot?
Temple.
Yeah, it's got to be Temple here. And you don't need to play Shamet today because you can actually get some cheap options that can do more than just stand around astronaut. Let's see here. Tyler Johnson is cheap. Yes, he is. Is Ersan going to get some run? I don't know. Do we have news on Brook Lopez?
Either way, it shouldn't be enough to matter.
All right. All right, we'll take a couple more. Harden or Westbrook and cash. That's a good one.
I still like Westbrook more unless you just can't do anything with the money.
Dragic or Rubio. That's a good one. Not huge on either. What's Rubio's price at? 67. They're not even close to the same price. I don't know. Would you go Dragic or Rubio?
I think Rubio.
I would think so, yeah. Rubio is 6,700. Dragic is like 5K, though. All right, two more. Let's see. Are the Eagles going to win the Super Bowl without Goodwin and Brooks? Yes. We are going to win the Super Bowl because Carson Wentz wasn't even listed in the top 100. It's a bunch of bullshit. S&M or TLC. I guess TLC. All right, last one. Adam, you can take this. Let's see. Yes, Nolan, he's played most games in almost every season, but, we can pretend he didn't. DeLon Wright as the last guy in. That's a good one to end on.
Perfectly fine.
Okay. All right. Well, that'll do it for us. Hey, thanks for hanging out. Hit that thumbs up. Have a good day. Good luck today. Stay safe with this storm barreling up the Northeast. And we'll see you back here tomorrow on the NBA Live Before Lock. We got the NBA Strategy Show. We got MLB Strategy Show, MLB Live Before Lock, PGA content, everything, NHL content. Oh, my God, we've got it all here. By the way, sign up at awesemo.com/join if you want to check out everything we have, from ownership to projections to the lineup builder to fantasy cruncher and all of our premium content. For all the contests out there, we've got premium content. Awesemo.com/join. Check it out before you sign up so you know exactly what you're getting. We'll see you back here soon. Good luck today. Hit that thumbs up on your way out. And remember to follow us on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS and Laffy_D. We'll see you soon.